Hey everybody, I'm Jay Jones.
And I'm LT.
And we are the Dose Offensive Gentlemen. Now let's talk about some shit.
Hey everybody, I want to welcome you back to another episode of Dose Offensive Gentlemen.
Yes, and we are here about to start Bartender Weekly 30 minutes ago with another one of our favorite bottles of whiskey. And you want to tell them what it's about?
Yeah, so this week we are drinking a Aberlour 10-year Highland single malt whiskey. Reading from the box, it says, nestling in the heart of Speyside in the village of Aberlour, where a source of exceptionally pure spring water known as St. Drostan's Well inspired James Fleming to build his distillery in 1879. The richness of the natural environment combined with the soft and pure water creates Aberlour's single malt, a distinctive whiskey of generous character.
It's very, very generous,
Very
actually.
generous.
I mean, it's full-bodied but light.
So it's very smooth. This is one of those things. So like I said before, with our last whiskey, I am not a fan of the peat. Light, little bit of peat, okay. Really peaty, not a fan of. This is not a peaty whiskey. This is a smooth, almost creamy type whiskey, and with a lot of flavor to it.
Well, again, I think that goes back to the location where it's made and distilled from.
Yeah.
I mean, we love the region that it's in, the Speyside.
The Speyside whiskeys are ginormous. There's everything. You have Macallan, you have Glenlivet, Glen Grant. I think pretty much almost everything we are a lot of the ones that I drink and I like come from that area.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Just pulling up Google Maps right now. We can see that in the area of the Aberlour distillery, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There's easily, obviously, over 10 different distilleries. Many that you'll know, many that we will have on this podcast sooner or later. But I foresee a trip to bring us and the listeners along on our on the fly or back in Alien Peregrine. I mean, on one of those, I think that would be an excellent episode. You guys let us know what you think.
We're going to do this whether they think so or not. It's like we're going to go.
Yeah, it's just whether it's going to be recorded, right? It's like I'm going to get drunk. It's just, are you going to be able to partake in my craziness?
No, I mean, we will have the ability to record, but we are going to go.
Oh, yeah.
Regardless, because I think it's going to be a good trip. And I always wanted to go to that part of Scotland anyway.
Oh, yeah. I have not been yet. I've been to Ireland, but not Scotland.
I've been to Scotland, but I haven't been like around. I haven't really gotten out to travel like I wanted to until more recent years, because usually it's there was a lot of time restraints on it.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, okay, you're in Edinburgh, okay, look around, okay, time to go.
Yeah, where you go on trips and they just shuffle you along like herds of cattle. I hate those. I see the necessity of having those for some places, like Egypt I talked about before, where it's dangerous to go alone, right? And they hand you a sword like in Zelda, but like it's dangerous to go alone and take this, or they just want to there's so much to see, you don't have much time.
Well, there's something to be said if you're very unfamiliar with a place the first time you go,
especially the language.
You need to. It's best to have someone who guides you along. But now that when you go back, you sort of get. I do a lot of research and beforehand before I go. So now I can go and go on a lot of trips by yourselves, and then that way you're free to do whatever you want and spend as much time where you want to go or not. So I mean, this trip and the ones I got coming up here pretty shortly are pretty good.
I think we just made plans without telling anybody else and actually coordinating.
Well, the good thing about us and our family that they are they're usually down for anything. So.
Oh yeah, they are definitely. They're like, yes.
Yeah. I don't think they're going to turn down a trip.
Yeah. So I'm just looking at Google Maps still because I'm kind of in awe as to what exactly, like the concentration of distilleries. And just along the River Spey in Scotland, Spey is spelled Spey. There are, like, we could just do a River Spey tour, and we could hit every one of these.
There's probably one.
It's
We probably
just
should look it
amazing.
up.
We should.
Yeah, there's probably a the Spey River, whiskey tour, and if there isn't one,
there is one now. I completely agree.
Yep.
And also keeping with the Dos Offensive Gentlemen tradition of drinking whiskey, we like to bring back the toast. LT, would you like to do the honors today?
So raise your glasses. All right, here's today's toast. Here's to the kisses we've snatched, and vice versa.
All right, cheers to that.
Cheers. Man, that's good. It's so nice and smooth, and
that is.
It's not. I don't want to say caramelly, but it's like the nutmeg.
Is that it?
Nutmeg. That's what I'm thinking. That flavor you get. That's what I feel like. It's like it has like a nice little just soothing.
Yeah, and so this reminds me of the Glendeveron, but a little bit more of a spice to it, right?
Yeah.
Which I definitely like. It's very easy, smooth drinking whiskey to have. We're already close to about 25% through the bottle. I mean, we've only been doing this for like less than 30 minutes, so the night's still young.
Yeah, we're gonna get through it. More than 25% of this bottle.
Oh, we definitely will. But if you guys, if you guys have any recommendations as to drinks or whiskeys or liquors or beers or anything else that you guys want us to try on the show, just give us a shout. Yep. And we will definitely do it.
I want to point out too, though, kind of one of the reasons that we've been at this, especially with the Aberlour for 30 minutes prior, is because when we were looking it up, we found out the founder of the Aberlour distillery's name is James Fleming. And of course, me being the big nerd that I am, first thing I said was, I wonder if he's related to Ian Fleming. So we just spent a lot of time researching this, and no, have not found any connections, but I would like to point out that yes, even though they're not, we couldn't find any direct link. The Flemings, Ian Fleming and his family, and his dad is actually from Scotland. And where he was born is only about 2 hours away from the distillery. And I honestly don't know how popular Fleming is as a Scottish name, but, that'd be something interesting if they were related.
I think that's something that we should check out for sure on the trip there, just to kind of investigate. But for some of the unenlightened listeners who do not know who Ian Fleming is, Ian Fleming is James Bond. He is the man, the myth, the legend.
Actually, he's that's actually a truer statement than most people don't understand.
Oh, well, he was an actual spy, wasn't he?
He was an intelligence officer, and he was responsible for creating a group, what they call Task Force 20. And Task Force 20 was essentially a sort of a prelude to like the special operations in the CIA intelligence. So it was basically a group of commando trained soldiers who their job was to gather intelligence. So their job wasn't just to raid a base, blow it up and stuff like that. Their job was to go in, sneak in, and gather as much intelligence as it is. So this is sort of like the front runner to things like the OSS and all these spy agencies and things of that nature. So that was all part of Ian Fleming's creation. Although he didn't get to lead them in the field like he wanted to, it was still his idea, and he did, have leadership over that unit for a while. So
he was the author of James Bond.
Yeah, well, yes.
But I mean, so when I said that he was James Bond, it was a double entendre, if you will. Yeah. Because he wrote the books.
Well, he wrote the books based off his time in the war, and so and he created that character.
Yeah. So real quick, while we're on James Bond, this is completely impromptu. James Bond. Who do you think the next actor should be?
I don't know. So the thing is, I know a lot of people. The common thing everyone screams now is like Idris Elba should be James Bond, and I'm actually against that sort of thing because James Bond is an established character. He is a Scottish, Swiss ancestry, and sorry, that doesn't apply to Idris Elba. Like I know Idris Elba's a good guy; he's a great actor. Most of the time he's had some.
Well, talking about Idris Elba, so real quick, my stance on that is I think that he would make a good James Bond. In my thinking that James Bond, you're gonna tell me I'm full of shit, but in my thinking that James Bond is essentially the generic code name that they give the 007 agent along with his identity. Again, I just told you what you were going to tell me, right?
No.
But you know that. So in keeping with that, I think so. However, I did read an article that Idris Elba said that the next James Bond should be female,
and that's dumb.
And
as
I wholeheartedly disagree with that.
Yep.
I think that.
All right. First of all, I don't give a shit about this whole fucking movement, that this trend of replacing established long running male characters with female characters. I hate that.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's like, okay, well, you know what? Let's if we wouldn't want to do the same. The reason why I don't really go for this is like, for instance, okay. What if we have in the next X-Men movie, we have Storm played by Charlize Theron, right? And most people they would pitch a fit. They'd be like, oh my God, but Storm's from Africa, and how can you have her played by a white woman? I'm like, well, Charlize Theron is from Africa too, so why can't she play Storm? Yep. You would not accept that because it would do a disservice to the character. So if you really like this character, why would you want to try to change it so drastically for what? What are you really getting out of it other than some retarded brownie points or, some sense of feeling progressive or some stupid bullshit like that?
Yeah. Well, I actually want to see Gerard Butler play Storm. I think that would be really fantastic.
I was actually eyeing him for Jean Grey.
Oh,
so that's how
another
we're
one.
Cast him.
Another one. A little bit of sarcasm. But so we have... so my argument is that people need to make their own characters, right? So when you have strong male characters, the next thing that I've seen that people want to do is essentially gender swap that. So let's make it a female character. Well, no, how about we get an original storyline, an original character, and you make it like an original thought. And then you incorporate that as a strong character with a strong backstory.
Yeah,
done.
You're not strengthening this character, or you're not even strengthening the position of women by swapping them out a man. Because I'm going to tell you right now, as far as men are concerned, and the majority of us, we're not going to take that character seriously. For the simple fact is like, okay, you couldn't come up with something on your own, so you're going to ride on our coattails. And the work that's been done and the fandom that's been created over this character, and then what usually happens is when they try to pull these things, these gender swaps and stuff like that, they don't receive the same accolades as the male or the original character does, and they start screaming sexism and all that crap. So, like, I'll give a perfect example. We have coming up soon, we're going to have Brie Larson as Captain Marvel. Now, the difference with this is that Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers, was a character for a long time. She was Miss Marvel, right? So she became Miss Marvel, and when the original Captain Marvel died, the first Captain Marvel was actually a black woman, and who also went on to lead the Avengers. But she was a completely original character. She wasn't like, they didn't go, okay, they didn't gender bend her and say, okay, well, now the new Captain Marvel, she's actually this black Kree hybrid, that came to Earth and has these powers. No, she's a completely different character. And then they gave her the name Captain Marvel. Later, they changed it to Photon, and now she has another name. But, it wasn't just a gender swap. It was a new character that was developed. And they did not try to connect it to the original one at all. Now, the Miss Marvel, Carol Danvers, now Captain Marvel, she took the name as that, when Marvel was pushing this big, you go girl, sort of narrative, they're like, oh, well, why don't you be Captain Marvel? You have the closest ties with him. And so that's how now she is become Captain Marvel. So in that sense, I go, okay, I can see her being Captain Marvel because it's not just a gender swap. But when you do things like
How about the Thor gender swap?
yeah, and then the Thor one is still retarded to me because that's a true gender swap. Oh, Jane Foster picks up the hammer and now she's Thor and she's called Thor and everyone calls her Thor. She is Thor and Thor is Odin's son. That is fucking retarded. Thor is it's his freaking name, you know.
Yeah, and not only that, but there was a certain elevation that they gave that character, where she was essentially more powerful with Millionaire.
Yeah, no, yeah, that was another thing I hate when they do that. When they do these gender swap and they try to, make it like the female character is so much better. Is that they try to sit there and go, oh look, she knows how to do all these tricks and stuff like that with Millionaire that Thor never dreamed of. I'm like, really? You're trying to tell me that the guy who's owned this hammer for thousands of years, longer than Jane Foster's ever been alive, doesn't know the ins and out of his own weapon? It's like, really, you really want us to believe that? And then when people goes, you know what, that's bullshit, they go, oh, you're being sexist. And I freaking hate that.
I hate it. I hate stupid shit.
Well,
that's really
so. But, see, I knew you were going to start this and get me off on this tangent, and you knew this was going to happen because this is one of my biggest pet peeves. And this is not to say I don't like female characters. Like there are some great female characters, but if you want to really understand how stupid this sounds to longtime fans and stuff like that, what if we had Wonder Woman changed out for a guy?
Well, then it wouldn't be Wonder Woman.
It wouldn't be Wonder Woman anymore, right? But we change him out for a guy. It's a transgender Wonder Woman, right?
Ooh.
Women would be pissed. You would hear all sorts of articles about, oh my God, look how they're pushing out women from their spaces and da-da-da-da. And let's be honest, comic books has been predominantly a male field for a long time. Yes, there's been some great women that have been in it. As much as I hate her on Twitter, Gail Simone has written some great work and done some great work in the comic book industry. But there have been some great women in comic books, but that doesn't change the fact that it has been and still is a predominantly male field. And in that sense, I would say if you want to come and play with us, you come and play with us, and we'll allow you to play with us. Don't come in and then want to change everything to suit you and then get upset when we're like, no, this is how we like it. Why do we need to change to suit you?
Right. Now, so I'm gonna use this to segue into a few different other things. So our big gripe now, LT is a much bigger comic book nerd than I am. I'm slowly getting onto any kind of level. Indoctrinated, yes. But the problem is not that there are female heroes or female characters. The problem is, right? The problem is, in my big thing, I've talked about it in the Star Wars episode of character development and character representation. So when I say representation, I mean like they represent actually what they are. They're not just gender swapping. They're not just doing that. They're a full. They have a full backstory. A full. They belong in that world. It's not like an implant. Does that make sense?
Right. It'd be. It's like if we take Black, since the TV show started, Black Lightning started, right? So Black Lightning's a character that's been around, since the 70s, and when you have Black Panther coming up, that's going to be really soon, and I'm pretty sure that's going to be an awesome movie. However, what if we took Black Panther and Black Lightning and we switched them for a Chinese woman?
Or how about we turned him into a white guy?
Oh, I wasn't going to say white guy.
No, how about we do a white guy, because Captain America actually stood in for Black Panther, right?
That's a totally different universe.
But it happened. It's a
totally different universe. That's the Ultimates line, and I don't feel like unpacking all that right now because we're going to be here. That would be the entire matter of fact, what we should do is just an entire comic book podcast.
I agree. Well, not just comic book podcast. Like, I think that we should actually characters or storylines that we can just talk about and have an entirely different ongoing series. I mean, really, because so we're about 15, 20 minutes into just this right now. We haven't even got the topics that we talked about doing before.
True.
You could blame that on me because I know how you like to sideball stuff. Yes. So now we're going to segue into an article that I saw off of Reddit right now, and it's something that kind of infuriated me the first time I saw it. It was an article about ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency, having the ability to do license plate tracking all throughout the United States.
Yeah. So the before in this article, it outlines that ICE is working with a company called Vigilant Solutions, which currently does license plate tracking and turns that data over for law enforcement agencies, and given ICE access to their database. Now, not to get too, I am definitely against this, the use of this, because like when every time they bring up something new, like, oh, well, we're not going to use this to, like, we're not going to abuse this technology or anything like that. What usually happens?
That's such horse shit.
Yeah, they end up abusing the technology. So as they stand right now, Vigilant Solutions says that the only time ICE will have access to it if there are cameras. So if you've ever noticed, when you go out, there are cameras all over the place, and there are certain specific cameras that are there to capture your license plate, and they'll take that license plate number and run a background check on it, and so on and so on, and build a database with it. So what they're saying now is a Vigilant Solution camera, or a camera hooked up to a Vigilant Solution technology, will not send that data to ICE, but ICE will have access to the data if they look for it. Now, ICE has cameras of their own. If they scan a license plate or something, it won't immediately go over to query the Vigilant Solutions database.
But you're essentially giving these people access to the pool.
Yes.
Like they're not just get the kiddie pool or just what they want to get. They have access to everything. They have the keys to the kingdom, if you will, in regards to that, and that just opens up the door for monitoring, because they're not just talking about like where your vehicle is now, but where it's been yesterday, where it was 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
They can see where you are now, and where and historically back, I think, to 5 years. And that's a lot of driving. If you want to talk about just the invasion of privacy and people, especially government, right? That's really what we're talking about. Government, even brother. Just getting into your daily routine, how you drive to work, and it's not. So this kind of takes me back to the Edward Snowden thing, right? So Edward Snowden was just like, we have these massive surveillance programs that you never knew about. But it's okay, we didn't abuse it because we got FISA court stuff. FISA court approval, which, by the way, they hardly ever disproved. But they had these approval processes in place that were essentially just bureaucratic. But that's what this is this is just another avenue of monitoring that the government has now. Yeah, that's really what that is.
Yeah, and it is, and it should be really disturbing, because it gives them, granted. So like Vigilant Solutions is a private, is not a government entity, but you have this company collecting this data, and now they're saying, hey, we're gonna give. Now they already share it with law enforcement agencies, but now they're saying, okay, we're gonna give it to another law enforcement agency, and that way they can monitor, people who are, I guess, illegal or sought for visa, or not visa. What am I looking for? They overstayed their welcome. Like, there's a common thing where people will come, they'll get a visa to stay here, and they're here for like, X amount of time.
But that's another thing is, if you're here on a visa, you don't buy a car.
Yeah.
Checking license plate, like, I could see maybe doing that for customs and for border patrol on trucks and things like that. But that's it. Like, as far as, like, if you're here on a visa, like, what are the chances of you having a car? I would say
if you overstayed your visa, though. So like lot of things.
How are they gonna find you based off of a car that you're not associated with?
But again, that's a good question. When people do these, they bust their visa expirations. who knows how they get what they get? You know what I mean? Because they'll stay here, and a lot of them will set up, some sort of life. It actually happens with a lot of Asian immigrants that come in. They'll come in on a visa and they'll stay a lot longer than they're supposed to, and they'll end up developing. They'll build a life, have house, car, sort of things like that. And I don't know how they actually get them because I don't live in that nefarious world, but it does happen.
It does, and I mean that goes back to the whole immigration discussion and stuff like that, which I'm all for legal immigration because that's just really the only way that you can.
I don't
immigrate.
like immigrants at all. I hate immigrants.
Yeah.
Immigrants you need to go back where you came from.
Yeah.
That is a joke, people.
All right, Clayton Bigsby.
That is a joke. I am from a family of immigrants. I married a freaking immigrant. We're all about immigrants over here.
Absolutely. Now, there's a part of the article that was published to The Verge that I did not. I don't want to say I didn't like, but it just really opened my eyes to how Congress kind of works for things, or how government works things. So the article is on TheVerge.com, and I'll post it down below. But it says, still the biggest concern for critics in the sheer scale of Vigilance Network, assembled almost entirely outside of public accountability. Quote, if ICE were to propose a system that would do what Vigilance does, there would be a huge privacy uproar, and I don't think Congress would approve it, said Stanley, who was also quoted previously in the article. But because it's a private contract, they can sidestep that process. And that is 100% how I see it happening also.
Yeah, and exactly the point. Because they are private, and what they do, the functions and technologies they develop to do it, people would be pissed if we found out, the government was doing this openly and publicly. But since they're a private company, they don't have to be open to public scrutiny.
Well, that's kind of how the NSA gets away with things, right? Is the locations and systems that they use, and even the individuals that are a part of the NSA, are all kind of contractor owned, but then they're contracted from the NSA.
Yeah.
So
they have access. They're contractor owned, and they're usually private companies that provide the technology, and that's contracted to the NSA. So again, sidestepping, doing a little loophole. They don't have to be as transparent because as a private company, there isn't a lot of requirement to be transparent with the technology and you produce and the data you collect.
Yep. And so fuck this. All right. Anyway, enough of that bullshit. So let's go on to our next topic. So what I thought was pretty funny in this USA Today news article that reads, German police sue American woman for slander for calling them Nazis. Now I'm pretty familiar with Germany, and anything that has to do with Nazis is literally illegal.
Yeah.
I mean, doing the Nazi salute, calling people Nazis is essentially defamation.
Yeah, it is verboten.
Yeah, I mean it's so it's funny to see an American woman do that, and it's actually in Frankfurt International Airport. So
what happened was during her check-in for her flight or going through security, they stopped her and said that she is bringing in too much liquid, and they're very. I was going to say they're liquid.
Yeah, no,
Nazis.
they're yeah. No, I mean, in that regard, yes, they are. But no, like they're the standard kind of TSA agents. Hey, you have too much liquids on your carry-ons. You need to do something about this.
Yeah.
And she essentially flipped the bitch and just got, aggressive and yelling and things like that. Now, I've been through the German airports and I've never had a problem.
Well, I can't say the same.
Oh my goodness.
I can't say the same. There is not that I had personally problems, but I've been with groups and we've flew out of Frankfurt, and we ran into some minor things. But the funny part was I'll tell you about this one, which was we were going with a group of friends, and the majority of them were German in themselves. Well, one of them had an object. The object wasn't bad. The object wasn't bad, but it would raise a lot of suspicion, little red flags to be on someone's person.
Right. So how big was the dildo?
Well, I mean, actually, to be fair, it was actually casings. There was casings from bullets that he had in his pocket. And when they saw that, now for those of you who don't know, in Germany, even though you are allowed to own guns and own firearms, it is a very, very lengthy process what you have to go through, and you have to get license on. You have to be part of a club. It's really hard to get ammunition, so it's not something. There's one of the reasons why gun crime in Germany is so low is because it's really, really hard to get access to firearm, and they will come and check to make sure you're storing it properly, and it's very, very by the book. So when you have an individual who has shell casings in their pocket, when he goes to the metal detector and he pulls it out and he's like, "Oh, I forgot I had these."
Yeah, I mean I could say that is a cause for concern. And then I think it's how you behave after that process that dictates everything else.
Yes.
Now, oh shit, it was my bad. Hey, we can throw these off here or whatever. Like, you can check me, do whatever. 9 times out of 10, that's going to work out extremely well.
Well, right, there's a difference. So the problem with this is the difference the way how Americans handle things versus Europeans, especially Germans. The current thing that the illustration I always get about understanding Germans is this: like that. The things I love about Germany are the things I hate about Germans as well. And that's being that if you come to, this is a German, if you come to it could be 2:00 at night, there's not a car in the world, you come to a crosswalk and the light is red, a German will not cross the street. They will wait until it goes green. There's no cars anywhere.
No, I've literally have had that exact same thing happen.
Yeah, and they will wait till it turns green. Whereas an American, you can always tell the foreigners, because the foreigners and Americans, they're going to be like, there ain't no cars coming. We're going to cross the street. And the Germans will sit there and they will judge you.
Oh yeah, they can judge me. That's fine. I'll be the first one in the line at donor.
But that's what probably happened. This is what happened here. So the lady getting frustrated at the interrogation quickly got, she got more and more agitated. And so there's 2 accounts of what they said. So the German police said she called them a bunch of fucking German Nazi police, and bastards. And then she says that no, she meant that what she was talking about is why is she getting this heat, and why are they messing with her instead of that Nazi-looking Hitler motherfucker behind her? Now, personally, I'm like, bitch, fuck yourself, because now that sounds like you're trying to throw shade on someone else. You don't know that guy's life. You don't know his life, and you trying to call him out for something, because you're getting the business right now.
Well, we're talking about an innocent bystander at this point who was probably just literally waiting in line to go to the metal detector, and then she's thinking that she was being profiled. No, chick. You literally disobeyed the rules. You brought too much fucking shampoo or whatever on in your shit, and they caught you, and that's what happened.
There was too much liquid in your bag.
Yeah. So from the USA Today article, police say the woman, 49-year-old professor, became unreasonable and irritated when they told her she had too many liquids in her carry-on during a screening for explosives. The issue of too many liquids morphed quickly, by her own account, into a tail-chasing argument over her deodorant. They insisted it must go. She claimed that made no sense and it was a solid. It was approximately at this point that police alleged she called them effing bastards and effing German Nazi police. Now, if you don't know what effing means, you're stupid, but we're just going to continue on. But she says she never called the police Nazis. What they heard was her wondering why she caught flack instead of the Nazi-looking dude with a Hitler Youth haircut in line behind her. Now that is just some bullshit, really. Like that is
when she lost all support from me.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, really, you are actually trying to you're focusing now. again, we travel a lot. There's times, and I can go into the time in Norway where they tried to take my son's plastic Viking sword because they thought it was a weapon. But we've all caught flack coming through a airport sometimes, and the fact that she,
Over deodorant though. Over deodorant.
man,
Over fucking deodorant.
it doesn't matter.
It's a solid. It's a fucking solid.
It doesn't matter,
ma'am. It says Axe. Why the fuck do you have Axe spray in your fucking bag? But then also, the result of the altercation, preliminary criminal proceedings against a woman on suspicion of slander puts a $260 bill or €270 upfront for any subsequent legal expenses. A day later, her case got worse when she published an incendiary 4,000-word tirade about the incident in the Huffington Post. So this is fantastic. She, one, broke the rules. Then she got caught breaking the rules, tried to throw shade on some other innocent bystander, got caught and fined. Then she went to the press on Huffington Post and just threw out this stupid-ass tirade, which I really kind of want to start looking for. And then it got worse, which is just the escalation is just amazing at this point. Like I love it.
Well,
I love it.
So for other people, who are not used to it and not understanding why this is kind of funny for us, is that when you deal with the German police or German authorities, like I said, Germans have a healthy respect for authority. And also the German police, the Polizei, they do not play. If the Polizei tells you to do something, you do it. It is not a discussion. It is not a negotiation. You do it. They will. In Germany, there's really no such things as true police brutality, because the way they look at it is if the Polizei had to beat your ass, you deserved it.
And that's one thing is, in my dealings with the German Polizei is they will not talk to you or confront you unless they have reason to. And it's not like, what they had in New York, like stop and frisk, or they just try to like profile you. I have never seen that.
No, they're actually generally quite professional when they do that.
Very professional, but it's but even driving or whatnot and getting pulled over, things like that. It's always been very professional, and but I just think it's just hilarious because it's like the stereotypical American. Yeah, it's like so stereotypical that it makes us look bad. Go fuck your face.
Makes you look bad, pale face.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. So anyway, we're gonna take this on to the Larry Nassar. So if you haven't heard in the news, Larry Nassar is the U.S. Olympic team doctor for gymnastics that essentially just was sentenced to 40 to 175 years in prison for essentially all the sexual abuse that he did. We're not going to go into that, but what I thought was fantastic was essentially the Scorched Earth avenue that the U.S. Olympic Committee is doing to the U.S. Gymnastics team. So what they're doing is they are essentially telling the entire administration that they have until the end of the week to vacate their offices. They are fired.
And which they should do, because the reason that this is a very good approach is because the Nasir was a doctor or he's been on this committee for like over 20 years.
Yeah, over 20 years.
So if all this had happened on your watch, you need to go. You need to go, because it's hard to fathom that for 20 years these girls were being molested and mistreated, and you knew nothing about it. It's kind of a hard pill to try to swallow and believe. Now it could be true that every member of the board was completely clueless of what was going on, but still, it happened under your watch.
Yeah. Again, it's scorched earth, though. It is a complete reset, and that's what they're doing. And I think it's probably the best course of action. It's a huge cover your ass CYA mood. And I think it's, to be honest, I mean, I
would have given him a pass if it just was maybe one or two incidents that happened over the years, but It's several over decades.
100, right? Over 150.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
anyway, I just wanted to
fuck
hit
that
on
dude
that for a little bit, and yeah, it's just like, in today's climate where you have the Me Too movement and all that. This is one of the Me Too movements that I can actually get behind because there was actual sexual misconduct that was happening.
Well, the reason I could get behind this is because there was allegations, there was an investigation, there was a trial, there was due process.
Yes, absolutely.
And when found guilty, he got judgment, he faced punishment.
Right.
The thing I don't agree with on the other ones is that there's allegations and that's it.
Yep. No due process, no evidence, no nothing. So that is a huge sticking point with us. If you haven't caught on by now, is we like to have evidence and due process because that's just best for both parties. Now, all right.
So moving on to the
ready?
next.
Are we ready for this one?
Oh man,
are you ready for this one?
I am ready.
All right. So earlier today, I was scrolling through Reddit trying to see what we could talk about today, and I came across the latest challenge. Right. So we've all heard about the Tide Pod challenge. We've heard about the ice bucket challenge. One of those was cool. The other one was Darwinism, and now we have another that is a solid candidate for the Darwinism Award, and that is what is called the No Lackin challenge. Now, so what this is a person will come up to an individual, and they're video recording this entire thing with a gun out in front of them. So they pull a gun out in front of them, and you see the gun, and they point the gun at their friend, and then they pretty much say like, "Oh, yo, you lacking, son," or something like that. To at which point the other person is supposed to supply their weapon and show it and point it back at the other person. Now we're talking about guns, and you're pulling out guns, and like they're in like, there's just so much wrong here. Anyway, so what brought this to my attention was that there was an actual shooting, which is fantastic in relation to this. All right, so in Memphis, Tennessee, not many people have heard of it, but a dangerous internet challenge is gaining popularity. It's called the No Lackin Challenge. On YouTube, videos of the No Lackin Challenge show people pulling guns on their friends and their friends pulling guns out too. However, no one pulls the trigger. Early Thursday morning, a 17-year-old shot in the head at E's Cafe on Union Avenue, so essentially, this 21-year-old, according to the affidavit, 21-year-old Sherman Lackland was sitting in a booth with two people he knew playing the No Lackin Challenge when Lackland reportedly accidentally shot his friend. So you're talking about a 21-year-old pulling a gun out on a 17-year-old as a joke or as a fad or whatever, and the 21-year-old shooting the 17-year-old in the head and killing him. Sorry. There is absolutely no fucking excuse for this.
All right, now it's time for me to fucking go the fuck off because this is the dumbest thing I've read all fucking day. Now, the full disclosure, I am pro gun. I am pro gun. I have a lot of guns. I own a lot of guns. I keep them. I shoot them. I carry them. I like guns. Now, with that said, this is so dumb, and the simple fact is this is why we have such a problem with gun violence and stuff in America, is the stupidity and the mentality that we have of people who come out and see something like this, and they're like, oh, this is okay. Not only is it okay, let me participate in this. A gun is a deadly weapon. It is a weapon. It is, fundamentally it is a machine, but it is a fucking weapon. And the fact that you think it's okay to walk around and point your gun at someone for a fucking internet views and likes, you're the dumbest motherfucker I've ever seen on the face of the earth. You know what? I actually support this. I'm going to support this because I need more people to shoot themselves like this so we could thin the fucking herd. Because this is the dumbest thing ever. You know what? The number one thing about gun safety is the fact that you do not point a freaking firearm at anything that you do not wish to destroy.
Yeah, that is rule rule one of muzzle discipline.
Yes, and the fact that you think this is a good thing for internet life, because this is all these guys are after. They're after some kind of internet fame, some vines, some clicks, some likes, and stuff like that. Oh man, I'm gonna sit there and I'm gonna show you, man, you Lackin. And the thing that disturbed me and it got me on, really fired up about this thing is that the videos they showed and the videos we looked at of this whole no Lackin challenge is that every member of that was black. And this hit me so hard because as black people struggle so hard to, the thing about with black people in America and black Americans is that the struggle for equality, right? To be seen and treated equally like everybody else. But I have a problem with that when we have a segment or a part of our community that, and notice I said "our," so when people want to fucking comment on this, I'm fucking black, motherfucker. When people want to comment and, or you have this segment here that is constantly doing shit like this and putting videos out, this is not helping us at all, and it's costing us our young black men's lives. So to sit here and whoever thought of this fucking idea that I'm gonna go take my gun and my video camera and I'm gonna point it at my friend and oh man, you Lackin? Are you Lackin right now? And then he's gonna pull a gun and point it back at me. I'm like, that is so fucking dumb. That is so fucking dumb. First of all, why are y'all motherfuckers, a lot of these motherfuckers were young motherfuckers that shouldn't be having a firearm anyway. And that's a totally different tangent I will probably go on. But the fact that you have so many young black men, right? You already have, the image out there of black men being violent, being, committing crimes, and we kill each other at a higher rate than any other. But, when you bring these issues up in the black community or in the media, they want to downplay it like, no, it's not really like that. You guys are making a mountain out of a molehill. And then you go around and you do some shit like this. All right? That's why I have a problem, when you get into these movements and stuff like that with Black Lives Matters and stuff like that, if you want to sit there and show me that Black Lives Matters, black men out there, listen to me, you fucking stop doing stupid shit like this and you speak out about stupid shit like this. All right? Now, granted, this is not everyone in the black community. I know there's, many people in the black community think exactly like I do. This is some dumbass shit. Okay? But we need to let people know, we need to be more vocal to our men and our people and sit there and not shy away from it, when we sit there and call out dumbass shit. So if you see this or you hear someone like, and we were looking at likes and stuff on the video of these, I was looking at likes and stuff and I was like, there's a lot of likes on this fucking video. Why? Why the fuck would you like this? And the comments were like, oh, yo, homie, I did this to my homie. Why would you do that? All right. Black people rise up. Now I know, my boy, my partner, my fellow offensive gentleman over there is kind of quiet, but because I'm on a fucking rant mode right now, because I want to definitely say something, especially to the black people out there. This is some dumb shit. We need to fucking start calling it out. If we want to be taken seriously in this country and treated equally, we need to stop doing this. I don't give a fuck what the hell everyone else is doing. If you want to be serious or taken seriously, fucking stop. Speak out about this fucking dumb shit right now. You have a 21-year-old that just shot a 17-year-old man in the head, or kid in the head, in a fucking diner in public. That means he was not afraid to pull out a gun and point it at someone in fucking public, and he pulled the fucking trigger. How dumb are we to sit there and foster this type of environment? Stop this shit and stop it now.
Absolutely. Now, the only reason I was even quiet during that, and I mean, thanks for pointing it out, but the only reason I was quiet was because I was drinking and because we completely agree on this topic. Completely agree. It's Darwinism. Let the shit happen. Down the herd. It's the fucking stupidest shit we've ever fucking heard. And, so one of my observations that I have with this is we just had the Tide Pod Challenge, right? So, and who do you see doing the Tide Pod Challenge?
White people.
Right. So you know what associations I make with that? White people killing themselves, black people killing each other. And that's a really shitty thing to say.
But it's
really,
true.
Yeah, and literally we have news articles to go with it. And that, I mean, it's uncalled for, it's uneducated, it is And I see that as like a huge red flag for the parents as well, because if these are young kids, 17-year-old, yeah, he's still at home. What the fuck is this doing with
Why
this
is he
guy doing
hanging
with a
out with a
gun?
21-year-old?
With a gun, like why is he doing this shit, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things that parents need to take a lot more control over their sphere of influence.
Yeah, I know she put that S on that too.
Both, yeah.
Parents.
Oh, absolutely. It takes two, man. It takes two.
It definitely takes two,
And we both agree on the importance of the nuclear family of husband, wife, kids. You know, I mean, it takes two. You know, I recently have a kid, and it definitely takes two.
Yeah, it does take two. It needs to, because kids need guidance growing up, and the thing that we're missing in this whole new age of progressive bullshit is that nothing against mothers. I will, I have kids too. I have boys and girls. I don't think I could teach my daughters how to be a woman, and I know my wife can't teach my son to be a man, and that's my job, and I need to be there for that, because this is, I figure we have this, more, especially with more fathers and all the guys, everyone in the video, they're all guys, they're all men.
Yeah, they're all guys.
All young black men, the most endangered demographic in America, because they commit and also receive the most violence.
And to be honest, from looking at the stats, I believe that we talked about that the most violence on black men is other black men. And that, quite literally, you're eating yourself at that point.
The disproportionately high rate, yes, that's why I always hate when people go, oh, why don't you talk about white on white crime? I said, because white on white crime is not killing each other. It's not white people killing white people at a higher rate than anybody else. Black people kill black people and other people at a higher rate than anyone else. And when you sit there and you try to combat this, or you try to combat this image, especially in the media, because that's where the battleground is faced a lot of times. When you have stuff like this coming up and people are pushing it and they're participating in it, it just hurts so much, because you're sitting there saying, no, we're not like this. We are just as good as everyone else, and we need to be treated just like everyone else. And then, it shoots yourself in the foot, quite literally, when you turn around and they could sit there and go, really? Well, you guys are out there pointing guns at each other. That's not why are you pointing guns at you? You're pointing at each other now. So
yeah, and so that's one of the things that I don't fully understand is why do this, right? It's fucking Tide Pod challenge bullshit. Like, I don't understand why. Like, are you just fucking bored? Are you trying to like show how hard you are? Is it a macho test? What is it? And I don't fucking know, because this is a hugely
and I'm quite
devoid
surprised.
Of any meaning to me.
I'm quite surprised there's only been one shooting from this that we heard about.
Yeah.
I'm really surprised, because another thing I noticed in several of these videos, again, gun safety, and I am a big gun nut. I was an instructor, so I have a lot of experience with this. And one thing I always tell is like, you don't punch your weapon at anything you don't want to destroy. Two, you do not place your finger on that trigger until it's time to destroy what you want to destroy. And I look at these videos and I watch their handling, and they're holding a gun and their finger is wrapped around the trigger. And I'm like, that is just a recipe. I was like, would I still think it's dumb if their finger wasn't on the trigger? Yes, I still think it's dumb. But the fact that is, not only are you pointing the weapon at someone, but your finger is wrapped around the trigger, that's just begging for something to happen, because this one was a negligent discharge, right? Meaning that this motherfucker had his finger on the trigger for some reason. It seems that he didn't want to do it, but he ends up for some reason pulling the trigger, and that sent the freaking round into the head of another young black man. And why? What did you gain from that? Absolutely nothing.
A life sentence. Probably not life sentence. I actually think he's being charged with Lackin is charged with aggravated assault, reckless endangerment, and unlawful possession of a weapon. Now, that's another thing, is the unlawful possession of a weapon. Now, personally, I believe that weapons should be treated like driver's license, right? So
Well, not driver's license, like cars.
Well, like cars, yes, like cars. Well, you should also, but the driver's license represents that you're proficient in driving a car. You've shown some proficiency in knowing that.
So a lot of places you have to have a license, some type of license to carry a weapon. But to go on to what you said, yeah, I think the actual weapon itself should be treated like cars. Your ability to own it should be treated like a driver's license.
Yes, you have to show proficiency in it. You have to have respect for the weapon. You have to have the proper safety protocols for the weapon, whether it's a safe at home or the proper holsters and things like that, so that you don't get the negligent discharges. It's really, really uncalled for, to be honest, and it just makes your entire community look bad. Well, not your entire, but like the community that these individuals are from, because it really does. Because you're like, the kid, the 21-year-old, went into this diner, this cafe, and it was okay for him to pull a weapon out. Like, who did not call him out on that shit? Who in that community did not hold him accountable? And that's what I see is, once you start seeing people doing whatever the fuck they want without anybody telling them otherwise, then you have no kind of structure within your life or within your community.
And that's a very big part on that. There's no structure, because even when I do carry, I treat it like, it's a really important thing. I don't believe in open carry. That. Concealed when I'm carrying, I'm concealed. I have this weapon on me. That's why I'm making sure I act as the utmost citizen, so to speak, because I don't want to invite a situation that will call for me to use my weapon. That's the last thing I want to do. So to be in a place to have that mindset that, oh, I'm in this public place with other people around, stuff like that. I'm gonna pull out my gun, pull out my weapon, and I'm going to point it at another human individual who's supposed to be my friend in public, and everyone's okay with it. Like, the fact that I know I haven't seen too much, and I've been looking, I haven't seen too much online about people going, yo, y'all need to be stopped doing this stupid shit. Like, y'all need to be putting that shit away. I've not seen, there are some voices, I'm not saying there absolutely none, but I've seen more people doing it and encouraging it than I've seen people speaking out against it.
Yeah, and I think it's the same kind of response that we get from the Tide Pod Challenge participants. It's like, oh, that's fucking stupid, blah, 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 haha, why are you fucking doing it? But it seems like there's not really an authority within the community that is putting their foot down and enforcing it, which is sad.
Yeah, and the fact that it's 2018 and we have to, tell people not to eat something which says on the package not to eat it, and we have to tell people don't point guns at each other.
Yeah. All I know is my gene pool is going to be fucking rock solid, man. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be like top tier by the time all this shit's done. It's going to be good. I got nothing else. Man. Just all the shit, man. Just all the shit. So we have one more thing that we wanted to talk about today, and that was the this Great Britain snowboarder that we have. And to be honest, I didn't think we'd get to this topic. I thought we'd just rant on more about the No Lackin challenge.
Oh, I can rant more.
Oh,
I'm trying to calm this down.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm sure the alcohol is helping with that.
So it says in the article, investigation launched after Great Britain Paralympic medal hopeful Casey Cava stripped of funding and kicked out of team while recovering from gangrape.
Now, we read the article, and I'll link it below, but this is we kind of think that this is some bullshit, to be honest. Now, the reason being, and we've talked about this before on previous fucking episodes, is because the timeline that everything happens in. So, she's on the Paralympic team because she was born with 2 club feet, which is horrific in itself. She broke her ankle or broke her foot, and then she also chose, because of complications, chose to amputate her foot, and then I believe she has an augmentation or a prosthetic. Now, but that doesn't lead us into the Gangrape. Now, according to the article in the Telegraph.co.uk, She was supposedly raped in 2013 and did not make it known until 2016. So you have a 3-year difference. And also at the time that she reported it 3 years later, she did not want to reveal specifics of the incident, which is it just doesn't make sense to me, to be honest with you. So, according to the article, Kava, who was born with 2 club feet, was walking home late at night while abroad in Europe when she was attacked and subjected to a gang rape in 2013. Now, I'll tell you right now, I've been to a lot of places in Europe, and I have never been fearful of that. And I know I'm not a woman or anything like that, but at the same time, there's not a whole. I don't think there's a whole lot of this happening. Now I have to look at the statistics and things like that.
The thing with this, Europe compared to America and a lot of other places is relatively a safe place. Does things happen? Yes. We're not saying that none of these things do go unnoticed, but for someone to first of all, someone picked off the street and raped is kind of rare. And I know it's generally reserved to a certain demographic of people who do this.
Yes.
And so it's not unheard of. The problem that makes this thing more complicated is that this gang rape happened supposedly in 2013.
And she does not give us the location, just while abroad in Europe, which is a very large area.
Very large area. So you're out somewhere in Europe. Someone picked you off the street and they gang raped you. Now, if this happened, I feel bad for you. Something bad happened to you. Yeah. It is a horrific event to have something like that happen to you. But the fact that you did not come out about this to anyone until 3 years later, sort of, I always say this a lot, and people give me shit, is that if you felt the need not to talk about it after it happened, like close to after it happened, how much am I supposed to invest in caring about this?
Yeah, and the importance of it. And that's one thing is we see a lot of the hashtag Me Too movements and things like that, where it has to deal with sexual misconduct and rape and sexual harassment, sexual assault, things like that. But typically those are with people that they know within their kind of acting or Hollywood community. Apparently this, from what we're led to believe, is from complete strangers. So the fact that there was a 3-hour wait time between... 3-year wait time. Fuck the alcohol. And this Aberlour is really good. So the fact that there is a 3-year wait time from when it happened to when she reported it to coaches is ridiculous to us because, one, you're not looking out for anybody's reputation. You didn't fucking know the perpetrators.
Yeah,
2,
why didn't you say anything?
Yeah, and why didn't you say anything? Quite literally, you had 3 years to do this. But another thing is she refuses to provide specifics. So it really makes me suspect that you're not as much of a victim as you say you are. And it's
not even just that. It's just that, okay, even if you were a victim, let's say this happened, and we believe wholeheartedly, say, okay, we believe that this actually happened to you. How much am I supposed to sit there and feel sorry for you because you didn't say anything for 3 years? So how am I supposed to sit there and go, okay, well, 3 years after it happened, you're going to tell me, okay, I was gang raped now. And then the thing that make this, the part of this that why this is such an issue and this story going forward is that when she does go out and she tells her coaches and stuff like that, she is expecting everyone to be like, oh, poor girl, oh, this is a bad thing that happened to you, and they need to acquiesce and do everything she wants. And she made demands on her team and stuff like that, and the fact that she was the only woman on this all-male team. Now, mind you, according to the article or anything else we could find online, no member of the team, the predominantly male team, has done anything to her, or she's reported any of them doing anything to her. She has reported that basically she wanted to have separate accommodations from the team.
Well, not just separate accommodations, but she wanted to be bunked with other females, and there's no other females available.
Yeah.
And so they probably don't have the funding to give her her own room, or they would see that as being kind of...
Well, she had her own room. She just didn't have where they were housed at. It was just it was a group. Like you have suites and stuff like that. So everyone has like their own bedroom or something like that. She wanted to have like her own suite.
Oh.
So she had her own bedroom, but she didn't have, the common areas were shared.
Yeah. So she ended up sleeping in the common area because she wasn't comfortable in her private area, which, it's one of the things, something horrific happens to you, supposedly, to be honest, and then you hold off so long to tell anybody, and then you expect everyone around you to essentially walk on eggshells. And it's really difficult for all of us to, for everyone to do that, even in the best case scenario.
Yeah.
So in the worst case scenario, we're gonna demonize you for it. But if you're not gonna give us details, if you're not gonna try to get the perpetrators, in the justice system, or try to catch the people who did this to you, in my eyes, you were not that much of a victim then, because if you're not seeking justice for what happened to you, you must not really care, because especially if it's people that you didn't know.
And so, and just the contrast, everyone's like, oh, well, as a woman, I don't give a fuck, because everyone has bad things. I have been the victim of muggery and violence outside, and I was mugged, I was stabbed. And I've talked about the story several times. And when that happened to me, I was, not only did I make sure I told everybody, even the mayor, about it, because I wanted to make sure these motherfuckers got what they what happened. And yeah, it feels violated, because you never think. A lot of people always think, oh, this will, you hear about crimes and you know what's going on. And you think it's never going to happen to me. And then when it happens to you, it seems surreal, but it happens. You have to deal with it. So, and I've dealt with it, and I've moved on. And hence, this is what led me to carrying guns, and being armed and very proficient in self-defense and situational awareness and those things, because that was my reaction to what happened to me. So to sit there and say, okay, this bad thing happened to you, but I ain't going to tell nobody. I'm going to keep it to myself. And then when people ask you about it, you don't say anything. And then when people try to help you, because this is the part of the story that I kind of took issue with this, and where my support of her kind of failed, is when she was going in and seeing therapy and stuff like that. And when one of the coaches was like, hey, okay, are you going to harm yourself? Are you planning on harming yourself or anything? She took that as like, oh my God, why did he ask me that?
Yeah, do you think I'm going to kill myself? Or, essentially seeing if she's a liability, or, something like that. And it's one of those where it's just there's no helping you at this point. Yeah. You are quite literally doing this to yourself.
And I kind of agree with that, because, I get it. Something bad happened to you. You want special accommodations. You want special this. Here's the truth, man, and this is where it kind of stings and hurts. Look, it happened to you. What happened to you. It didn't happen to everybody else. It didn't happen to your teammates. Your teammates didn't commit this to you. Your coaches didn't commit this to you. People funding you didn't commit this to you. It happened to you. It is on to you to deal with it. Now, you may feel that you didn't get the support that you deserve, and that's debatable. But to sit there and try to make demands about how you should be treated, separate from what they can actually offer, is a real big deal. And I know we want to sit there and go, oh man, you want to do the woe is me and everything like that. But in the bottom line, hey, it's all about performance. This is a sport. It's about performance. Now, if you were more, how should I say, I won't even say forthcoming, but more agreeable to things and understanding, because to me, what this is saying to me is that she wasn't able to function in the confines of her team, and as we saw later in the article, she was able to function by herself, then maybe you need to be by yourself, because if you can't work in the team, there's no I in team, then you need to compete as an individual.
Yeah, so the entire gist of the article is that she was on a team getting funded and training, and then she, because of quote unquote behavioral issues, due what they quote is due to the incident, she was released from the team, and then she said, "Well, fuck that, I'm going to go do this individually." So she essentially went into this tournament or went into this competition individually and placed second, which was very high and pretty much unheard of at the time. And so she's done really well, which, yeah, more power to you. Again, my entire gripe with this entire article is that she did not wait, or she did wait. She did not provide assistance or seek assistance in the beginning. 3 years had passed. Now she is 26 now, so she was oldest 23 years old at the time, and so she was an adult, and she knew that she should have had a support system. She should have had people she could talk to, parents, doctors, so and so. She could have went to a hospital, did a rape kit, whatever.
And the thing that again, why this is irritating, it is also additionally irritating too, is that these resources have been out there for a long time. I have been, previously I was at one point I was a victim advocate, a VA. So, I had training on what to do when someone comes to you with a sexual assault, a complaint, and stuff like that. There is a lot of it out there, lots of it. So you can't sit there and use the tactic like, oh, I didn't know, any support, or I didn't want to relieve it. A lot of times I hear this, well, I didn't want to relive the incident. Well, then that's on you. I'm sorry to say that. I want to be crass, but that's on you. If you do not want to relieve the incident, you don't want to deal with it, that's a personal choice. Don't come back later and then expect everybody to bend their will or bend their behavior because of something you chose to do after, when there's help available and you decide not to take it. We don't have to sit here and bend over backwards because you decided to do it later.
Yeah, and that's one thing, is that if she would have tried to, or if she would have spoke up when it happened or sooner, her colleagues and her teammates and her coaching staff and everyone around her would have used kid gloves. They would have tried to seek proper help. They would have tried to push her in the right direction. The fact that there was a 3-year difference, like that is like my linchpin in this entire argument, is like there is a 3-year difference. Yeah, it's like the Kevin Spacey bullshit. Like fucking 15 years, goddamn it. Like 3 years is pointless. There is no way that now you can try to get any kind of judicial punishment. There's nothing.
And again, I will say, if you felt the need, a lot of people are like, well, I suffered in silence. Well, that was a personal choice. You decided to suffer in silence. That was all on you because you didn't feel this time. And maybe, and with the Kevin Spacey one, I'm a little bit harsher because it is a dude. It was a man.
Right.
And as a man, I get it. I will give, some credence to women. They don't generally think like men do. But I know as a man that, hey, shit happens to you. You have to fucking man up and deal with it. All right. If you don't, you decide not to do it, then what you're saying to me is that it wasn't that big of a deal to you. So why is it that big of a deal to me?
Yep, that's perfect. Like that's exactly it. And on that note, everybody, we're gonna wrap this up. Thanks for joining us here on the DOG.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening to the Dose of Offensive Gentlemen podcast. We want to hear what you got to say, so leave us a comment below and hit that like button. Also, subscribe so you can get your future DOG updates.